I'm going to do something a little different with this video. Normally I like to stay away from spoilers in my reviews, but I can't really get my full thoughts on this movie without spoiling a couple of things. So if you haven't seen the film, there's your spoiler warning. Thankfully, this film is easily accessible. If you have a Netflix account, you can go on and see it right now. And I have to say, I was looking forward to this film just a little bit because I like the first Cloverfield minus the shaky found footage cam that made me sick a couple of times, and I really like the 10 Cloverfield Lane. And I was curious to see like how this film is going to tie all these movies together, and it, for the most part, it did it fairly well. One of this film's strengths in my eyes is its production quality. It doesn't have that crappy B-rated movie feel to it, and it's a very watchable film in that aspect. I mean, the visual effects alone are fairly convincing. The cast is pretty solid. There isn't a single person in this film that kind of feels out of place to me. And overall, this movie is pretty entertaining. It has some sci-fi elements to it that I liked. It deals with like a multiverse and alternate realities. I found that to be pretty interesting, and the lead character Hamilton has easily the most developed storyline out of all the characters. I like how her character is struggling with the loss of her kids and how she's sort of like responsible for that happening, and the Earth is dealing with an energy crisis, and she brings in a power cell back to her house that ends up causing a fire that kills her kids. And when they're testing this new technology out in space, they end up jumping to a new reality that in this one her kids are alive, and I like how she's sort of given a second chance to save them. She struggles with that decision to either should she stay in this reality or go back to the one that she's from, and I like that part about the story. However, I think the biggest problem having this movie is that I could have done without all the weird stuff that happens in it. There's like a scene where this one guy gets his hand stuck in the spaceship, and it's like almost the spaceship is kind of like almost eating him, and he ends up getting his arm cut off, and it comes back in another part of the ship, and it starts moving on its own. That was pretty weird. There's another scene where they find a whole bunch of worms and their space compass and the Russian crewmate. I found that to be pretty like strange. There's just a bunch of weird stuff that happens in this movie that I felt was kind of unnecessary. They do explain it a little bit with the two realities colliding and trying to occupy the same space, and that causes a whole bunch of crazy stuff to happen. And this is really like how the movies are tied together with the alternate realities. And I think people are just sort of like overthinking this a little bit, because I look at it as sort of like a Rick and Morty thing with like the multiverse and infinite like realities, and that leads to like infinite possibilities, because like Hamilton, the lead in this movie, her kids passed away and she's a part of this crew for the space station in this reality, but in the reality they jump to, her kids are alive, but she's not a member of the space station crew. And like, you just think of it that way, with like infinite amount of things could happen. And I think a lot of people are just having trouble with like where each movie takes place and why aren't they taking place in the same timeline. And there's a small little portion near the beginning of the film where the scientist expresses his concerns about testing this new particle accelerator, and that he's worried it could rip a hole in the fabric of like time and space and release all these monsters across the dimensions, and not only affecting the present but the past and the future as well. So I found that to be a reasonable explanation as to why each film doesn't really totally connect with the next one, and like the timelines are kind of muddy. So overall, I think Netflix was the best platform for this film. It takes what would have been a big loss for Paramount and it maximized their audience. I did find it entertaining with its sci-fi elements, but there were a few odd choices and twists that I felt were a bit too much and really unnecessary. So I'm giving the Cloverfield Paradox 3 out of 5 stars. So now I want to know what you think. If you saw the Cloverfield Paradox, let me know what you thought of it in the comment section below. Please, if you enjoyed this review, be sure to like and share it. And to stay up to date on all the videos go up on this channel, be sure to give that subscribe button a click. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.